well. Good to be back together. I'm Lydia. If we've never met, I'm pastor here. Just so glad that you're joining us this week. Before we get into the message, I always like to share some invitations with you all of different ways that you can get connected in the life of our church. The first one is, hey, you guys are incredible. We put out a shout out about the precariously housed bags. There's 283 identified precariously housed students in the Hillsborough School District this year. Precariously housed meaning they're sleeping on couches, they're in cars, they're moving from apartment to apartment every couple weeks. And we put out an ask, and we got all of the bags that we committed to taking out of this 283 taken. So we have to get more because some of you didn't even get to get a bag. So I just wanted to say thank you. Way to go. This week, if you're in your home church and you did not get a bag and you're looking for one, please let your host or lead know, because we will gladly deliver that straight to your home if that's what's needed. It was interesting to find out this year that actually the largest portion of the precariously housed students were the kindergartners. There's 40 kindergartners that are experiencing homelessness in some way. And so it's pretty crazy to think about right here in our city. But as we talked about last week in our mission statement, it's our job to love our city. And this is one of the ways we're doing that. So thank you for responding. The second thing we want to bring to your attention is, hey, we have kids in our service with us. If they're older than 5, we really try to encourage them to be in the service for the message portion, not just the meal, but for the message as well. And we obviously have kid care in each of the homes for the younger ones. And we are trying to find ways to engage you kids that are in the service better, because maybe sometimes you feel like a little bit disconnected or you're not understanding some of the things we're talking about. And so you may or may not know that for the past month and a half, we've started to have options for you to do in the service, as well as for the kids in kid care. And so be looking and asking your hosts and leads for those things. This week, we actually have these activity cards that I have yet to cut out, but we'll cut them out for you. And there are different things that you get to take home and do, because we're talking about our mission statement. We're talking about our values and what we value is serving and helping one another out. These are different things that kind of highlight some of our values, and you're going to be able to decorate a little envelope that you're going to take them home in. But just know that each week there's something that's going to tie in with the message or with our season that we're in for you. Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, whoever's bringing the kids, make sure you're looking for those things and asking, because we want to we want to equip those kids, those students, to feel like they're seen and part of our service. So just wanted to highlight that we've started doing that, and we hope that's a blessing to you all, and would love feedback on that. The next thing is a Dwell Builds a Well. I'll be giving you an update next week about where we're at in terms of our giving, but just wanted to bring us circle back to that and say that is still an option. Some of you have already been starting to give. We're going to have the giving open for a few more weeks, because it is our Christmas gift to the world. So we've got a couple options and ways that you can get involved, and you can be really generous this season. So thank you for helping us with that. Again, we've got so many things going up. The next thing I want to highlight is, many of you may have seen this. I posted this on the comments page of our Get Crafty Women's Night. I made this pillowcase at AR Hillsborough, which is where we're going to have our next women's event at, is December 3rd at 12 o'clock. AR Hillsborough is just downtown Aranco. It is super, super fun. And we at Dwell are taking $15 off of whichever project you choose, as well as picking up the drink tab. They've got a little bar there, which is really fun. And we just want to invite you to come, bring a friend, bring a neighbor, bring your daughter if they're interested in going, whatever is fun for you ladies. But we are going to have a great time. And the cool thing about doing this in December is you can make something for someone else for Christmas. It doesn't have to be for you. So I've already picked out, I'm making something for my sister. She lives up in Tacoma, and I'm making her something really cool that's personalized to Tacoma, Washington, and that's going to be her Christmas gift. But they've got a variety of prices as low as $30 to $95 based on what you want to do. So make sure you register and sign up. That info is on our Facebook and Instagram page, as well as in the email list. If you don't get our email list, make sure you subscribe to that through the homepage of dwellpnw.com. You'll see where you can do that. And then finally, save the date. Parents, we told you when you picked up your kids from Dwell Kids, save the date, December 7th. We're doing it a week earlier in December, our Christmas party, because all that crazy Christmas stuff that happens the last week of school. So we're moving it up and we're doing it from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So you get 2.5 hours to yourself to go Christmas shopping or just have a date. So we're extending it for an extra hour for that night. So make sure Christmas Express is going to be on your calendar for December 7th. More info being released soon. All right, with all that, we get to get into the message finally. So, hey, pull out your Bibles, pull out your notebook. We're going to be going through our next part of our series, which is on our values. So, last week we talked about the mission of Dwell. This week we're going to talk about some of our values. This week and next week will be just about the values of Dwell. So, many of you may have heard of a pastor named Louis Giglio. Very famous, huge church. Well, he, I think, was a really wise man. Now, a lot of times churches will start and they say, here's our mission and here's our values. Well, what Louis Giglio did was he actually waited 5 years from their church plant. Their church started out small and tiny, and now it's massive. And then finally put out their values 5 years later. And I thought that was really interesting. The reason he did that was because he wanted their values to truly reflect the we. He didn't want to start out saying, hey, this is what we value, church. In other words, this is what I value, and now all of you should value it. He wanted to see, what did the family of God, what did the church, what did their house, what was their DNA naturally, and wanted to discover who they were and give an accurate representation of that to their team, to their church. What is the mandate that God has for us, and what are the things that we're supposed to be valued? So he said, I'm going to release what we know as we know it. So he didn't even release all their values at once. It was like, hey, we're going to talk about this value that I've noticed we have in our community. So I love that, because I think that's unintentionally sort of what has happened with Dwell in this last year. Is we've kind of discovered more and more, like, what is God saying to us? Who are the people in the room, and what do we value? And so the question people are asking, and the point of values is, so we talked about mission, right? Was, why do you exist? That's really the question people are asking when they're talking about our mission statement. When it comes to values, people are wanting to know, and what makes you different? How do you produce that mission to come to pass? What makes you different and unique? And like I said, a lot of organizations have the same mission. I don't think Dwell's that unique when we say, yeah, we want, our mission statement is to serve our city. It's to build fully devoted followers of Christ. It's to live an authentic community. Now, some of those words I think were maybe not as popular as common in some of our churches, but there are a lot of churches who would say, well, yeah, us too, I agree with that. So what really stands us out even more, kind of drilling down, you go the wide scope, which is our mission statement, is our values. How do we make that happen? How does that come to pass? So the values of every tribe is unique. Every family, every one of us actually has inherent values, whether you realize it or not. And today you'll notice that every one of our values, today and then the next week when we go over values part 2, points back to our mission. It connects in some way, and we'll talk about that. But whether you know it or not, like I said, every person, you individually, have certain values. And you and the family of origin that you have, and the family maybe that you've now built, have certain values. And again, it's not necessarily explicitly said, it's just lived out and people can observe it. So for instance, like my mom, I would say my mom values justice. It's very obvious in the things that she's interested in and what she does with her time, in the way that she operates and speaks to people. Justice is a huge value for my mom. Now, she maybe not has explicitly would tell you that, but it doesn't take long in a conversation with her for that to come out, or when you're in a relationship with her. When I think about my dad really values multiplication. So he's the CEO of a company. He loves purchasing other companies and making his company bigger. And he loves bringing on new staff people. And he's very interested in multiplying finances. He is a multiplier. That's what he values. And if something's not multiplying, whether it's a bank account or a company, he's not going to be that interested, or he's going to figure out how he can put that value into where he's at. I think about my sister. She values loyalty. She is extremely loyal when it comes to her friends, her spouse, her family. And if that's not in a relationship, like, she's out. She's not even going to bother with you. But that is a value of hers, whether it's a company or organization. She's loyal. And then I think about my family of origin, and I think, wow, we never said, like, this is who the Shepherds are. But I look back and I say, oh, it's so clear to me. Like the biggest value, one of our highest premiums was that we work hard. And whatever it was that we did, like the expectation of the kids, of the parents was you're going to work hard. Like not working hard, there's no excuse for that. I think about some friends that we have. They have actually in their house when they walk in, up on the wall, um, the Johnsons try new things. That's like their one something that they value is trying new things. And it's like a motto, it's something that they say to each other and they've said to their kids since they were little is we try new things. I think about in our family, Dwell, just some of the people that come to mind, and they've never maybe explicitly said this, but I'm going to call you out and see what I think you value. I think about the Huggins family. They're extremely faithful. They're faithful servants. So I would say that is a value for them. Like they show up to everything, and they always respond to a call for help, to a call to serve other people. That's just who they are, and their whole family just knows that and does that. And you can even see that in their daughter Alyssa. Like she just shows up and she's part of it, and she's just the sweetest little thing. But I think about that. I think about Terry. Some of you know Terry Canning. She's extremely honest and she cares about truth. And so that is clearly a value for her. I think about our friend Robin. Robin is very organized, and that is at a high premium for her. Whenever you're interacting with Robin, you know that it's going to be thought through. It's going to be well organized. She's going to follow up. I think about Lisa Crane. She's highly empathetic. That is a value for her. And if you're not showing empathy, you're probably going to hear from her in some way, even if she's not talking directly to you, her empathy will come out and you'll be like, oh yeah, I need to be more empathetic. That's a value that she has. Think about Tanya and Scott. They value travel. They were just in, I can't even remember, but somewhere really awesome doing some scuba diving, and they have their camper and they went to Yellowstone over the summer, and that's a value for them to make memories traveling with their family. So you get the idea, right? Everyone individually and even as families has values. So what are our values, Dwell? Well, like I said, I'm going to reveal 3 this week and 3 next week. So let's dive into 3 of our values if you're taking notes. The first one is table, which is we connect over food and drinks. And for each one of the values I'm going to highlight, I'm going to tell you the word, and then I'm going to tell you what is it really about. Well, for table, it's about connection. The next one we're going to talk about today is contribute. We are contributors, not consumers. And that's about taking action. And then the last one is rest. We don't sacrifice Sabbath. And that's about a healthy life. So let's kind of dig into those 3 things today. The first, table. That's probably not surprising in the sense that you know that my family and obviously Dwell values food and drinks. Like every time we gather, there's going to be beverages and there's going to be food. That is why we do church the way we do church, in homes, sharing a meal. That's a non-negotiable for us. But why? Is it just because we really love to eat and drink? Well, no. It's actually partly because, one, we see it's extremely biblical. So many times that people are getting together in scripture, it's talking about a meal or breaking bread together. But what it's really about, guys, and I said this, is about connection. There's something that happens in the experience of sitting around a table, sitting at a bar together, sitting at a long table, whether they're plastic or beautiful Pottery Barn tables. There's something that takes place, and it's a connection. It's an openness that begins to happen, that begins to transpire. It falls underneath our mission statement of living in authentic community. That's where table connects for a value for us. I just think like of the people that are doing this, even outside of not just Dwell, I think probably Dwell compared to a lot of churches, like the number like per capita of people that are having meals together, like going out for coffee, going to happy hour, having breakfast or dinner just regularly is probably really high in our community. We're gonna attract foodies probably in our community. I think about like Bruce Jackson and James Warren, who are part of our community, and there's a group of guys that are not just from Dwell, but every Friday they go to lunch somewhere different, whether it's Shake Shack or Amelia's. I think about Ben Grimm and the group of guys guys that go to Long Bottoms on Thursday mornings, but we're just a group of people that are constantly having people over. And I think it's such a powerful thing because it's an openness. It's easy to bring all of who you are to a meal and just kind of share casually about what's going on. It's easy to invite people to be part of. We're sharing life or traditions and struggles. And what it is it's an opportunity to stop long enough to really engage and to listen. So table is a value for us. It's about connection. The next value that we have is contribute. So we are contributors, not consumers. And you would have heard this last week through the part of our mission that talks about serving and loving our city. We're really action oriented. We exist, right, to faithfully serve our city. And it also, when you think about contribution, this would fall under developing devoted followers of Christ. Because if you're following Jesus, Jesus was not a consumer, he was a contributor, right? He was always looking for ways to give and to add to people's lives and to help and to serve. And serving each other it looks very different, right? I kind of laugh as I think about just different ways that I've been served by this community in the last few weeks. It was a couple of weeks ago. Many of you know we have a newborn at home and a toddler. And Everett he's 3.5, and he's recently gotten into locking doors, which is usually fine. That's not usually a problem. But it became a problem a few weeks ago when I didn't even know that we had a lock on our master bedroom door. And my son, Brooks, who was 4 weeks old at the time, I had set him down on the bed because he was sleeping and we were packing up our bags because we were going to go stay somewhere. And I go to open the door to get Brooks because Everett decided he was going to shut it and realize the master bedroom doors are locked and my newborn baby is inside there. And I'm like starting to panic with every pull of the door because it's not opening. And again, I'm like, I didn't even know we had a lock on this door. I've never had to use it. And I look over at Everett and I'm like, Everett, did you lock the door? Yeah. And oh my gosh, I'm just like trying to keep it together, like the I'm going to kill you, but I can't say that to my kid feeling. And I'm like, what do I do? So I call my husband, but he works like an hour away. And I'm like, have any suggestions? And he's, giving me some ideas. First of all, I'm just going to be honest. This is my confession. I really don't know how to operate a drill. It's just the truth. Like, I don't know what bit goes with it. I just don't know how to do that. So he's like, well, you can get the drill and do this and this. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. And these doors are really cheap. We've talked about replacing them before. I call my friends. They don't answer. My parents are out of town. And so then I'm like, well, who else can I call? And I'm like, Ben Grimm. I'm going to call Ben Grimm. He lives just down the street. He's a close friend of ours. I bet he could have an idea. He seems like he'd know how to operate a drill. I don't know. So I call Ben and I'm like panicked. I'm like, Ben, this is a situation. And he's like, okay, I'll be right there. And, he works from home, thank God. And so he drives over here and he's got a little tool that he tries and he's like, yeah, that's not going to work. By this point, I've been crying because my baby's now crying. He's not just asleep in the room and I can't get to him. And I'm so upset. And Ben gets here and he literally breaks down the door for us. And I'm like, this is why you call Ben, because he's a big dude. And so I'm like, Ben, just break down the door. Like, I don't care. And he just body slams that thing and breaks open the door and we rescue the baby. And I think about what that means. Like first of all, we have a close enough friend, thank you, Jesus, that I can rely on and call. But to be a contributor, to not just be a consumer, like, okay, yeah, I'll be there. Like, what can I do? How can I help? And this community is full of those people. But that's what it means to follow Jesus and to serve one another, to serve our city, to serve this family. I think about the things that I mentioned last week, Northwest Children's outreach that we're going to be doing on December 17th, save the date. I think about the Build a Well, the precariously housed bags, the regular giving that we do. We are contributors. We are not consumers. We want Dwell, you are Dwell, known as people who take action, who don't wait around for other people, but who say, here's a need and I'm going to respond to the call. I'm going to answer it. I'm going to fill it. Whatever stage of life we're in, that is a value. And it won't take long. You won't be around Dwell for very long for you to realize like, oh, we serve well here. Like we really do we don't just take, we give. So that is huge for us. Then the last thing though, and I purposely paired these together this week, guys, because I want you to know with the consumer, with the contributor, not the consumer, I'm not. I'm really not interested in burning people out. So my past experience in churches, I've been pastoring for 11 years, is well, maybe longer than that now. Oh my gosh, 12 years? Since I was 21. Uh, and I I've just seen so much. When you're an action oriented church, which you should be, that's part of the mission, you oftentimes don't have a healthy lifestyle, healthy rhythm of rest. And you burn people out, and pastors very quickly burn themselves and their families out. And so when we started Dwell, I really felt like Sabbath and rest needed to be weaved into our DNA. And I'm really grateful to see that that's something that all of you value as well. And here's what I mean by that. So I said rest, we don't sacrifice Sabbath. So the way we set up our rhythms and our schedule, when you look at Dwell, you're going to see, oh, they actually like intentionally take time off. Yes, we do. So here's what that means. Like, we're not meeting Thanksgiving weekend or that week. That's intentional. That's not just like laziness. That's, hey, we value rest. Our hosts and leads need to have a break. They need to be able to enjoy their Thanksgiving weekend with their family too. If you want to watch a sermon, you can watch any of the old ones on repeat. You can watch the best people in the entire world at any moment. You can listen to them, podcast, whatever. So we don't need to do that for you. That looks like for Christmas time, we take off 3 weeks. We have a real Christmas break. That's not because we don't love Jesus and we don't love to gather in the church. That's because we believe that we can still do that in ways that are healthy and good, but we actually need to give space. We know that many of you travel and are with your family, and we're not going to make you feel guilty about that. We think that's amazing. Go build memories with your family, and you can still be the church and love Jesus as you're doing that. We're not going to sacrifice our health or our family um, at, at at being contributors, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying we don't do hard things, that we're not making some sacrifices, but ultimately we want to serve Jesus for the long haul. I don't want to burn out. I don't want you to burn out. I don't want our hosts and leads to burn out. And I don't think Jesus is interested in seeing us give 150% to only go to zero and be like, peace out. Like, I can't keep up. I'm too exhausted. Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And so we want to take that to heart. We want to serve Jesus for the long haul. We want to love our family. We want to love ourselves. And this falls under the developing devoted followers part of our mission. If you're a devoted follower of Jesus, you Sabbath. It was part of the rhythm and the routine that was mandated from the beginning of the foundations of the earth when God, he actually rested, right, on the seventh day. We are not better than God. You are not better than God. I am not better than God. If God takes a rest, we definitely need to take a rest. And so when we don't do that, when we don't value rest, it directly affects our serving. It directly affects our contributions. It directly affects our health because you can't give what you don't have. And I just am so happy to see that so many of you really are interested in that sort of lifestyle where we're going to give 150% and then we're going to rest. We want to live a healthy life because rest displays trust in God. Sabbath means I trust you, Jesus, over my agenda, over what I need to get done, over what I think is important of me working for the gospel till I collapse. It shows a reliance on him. It's sacrificing self-idolatry, which, as we know, I mean, is just such a rampant thing. It's the American way, this constant movement and achievement. And honestly, I kind of think that it's a positive that came out of COVID is we are now more aware of, and I think desiring rest. Like, we all had to slow down so much because so many things were canceled for so long that the desire to just kind of be at home has increased, and the temptation to be busy has decreased. And so I think of, there's so many examples of Jesus getting away and resting or praying, recharging. And I believe that we are to take that seriously. And I don't think it's just something that we should have as a possibility or an option once in a while, but it has to be part of our weekly rhythm. And we want it to be part of the rhythm of our church. So when you see like, oh, we're not having church for those holidays or whatever, think of that as intentional and as a gift. and not as some sort of heathen movement that we're trying to do, but as an opportunity and to say, you all can still gather. If you want to, have some friends over to your house and you're not a host and lead, open up your home and have people over for church in your home during that time. Do some connecting, do some serving. We're certainly not stopping you from that, but we're not forcing that as a community. And I so love and appreciate that we can rest well so that we can contribute well. So those are the three values that we talked about today, Dwell. It's table, we connect over food and drinks, and it's about connection. It's contribute, we are contributors, not consumers, and that's about taking action. And the third thing, rest. We don't sacrifice Sabbath, and that's about a healthy life. So, those are the three values today that we'd love for you all to kind of discuss and think about in your home churches. And then next week, we'll come together and we'll talk about the other three that we have, at least the six that we've been able to identify over this past year together. I love our church. I love our family. I love the values that we have. I love the people that we are. We have a unique call and mandate on this family. The DNA of our church is unique. And so I'm excited to continue to unpack that with you all next week together. So thanks for joining us this week, Dwell, and we'll see you next time.